What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 85 of the 214 Sports Show, the Kevin Williams episode, two-time Super Bowl champion on the Dynasty Cowboys. Thank you for joining us yet again. I'm Joseph Duffy, joined as always with my co-host, TJ Krolowicz. How you doing, TJ?
I'm doing good. Still recovering from that fantastic Cowboys game on Sunday. Just incredible. Um and still recovering from the depressing losses from the Rangers. So, we'll be talking about both of them today,
Can't have it all. You just cannot have it all to be a W fan.
especially in Dallas. Yep.
Yep, well, you can have this win though, as we'll start with the Dallas Cowboys, as they're finally in the win column. Brian Schottenheimer had his first win as Dallas Cowboys head coach. And what a way to do it. TJ, what in the world did we watch this past Sunday? What was that game? Just give me your emotions to start off this segment.
Uh I this is like this was awesome. I mean, it was just such a fun game to watch. It was stressful. It was very stressful. It looked like we had no way of winning that game. There's multiple times in that overtime and also in the fourth quarter where I said, it's over. It's not coming back. We're not coming back from this, but you know what? It was an incredible game from our offense, our defense. Matt Eberflus got some explaining to do for sure, and with the schemes and I mean Russell Wilson just cooked us. It's there's no other way to put it. Malik Neighbors is a really good wide receiver. I think we made him look a little bit better than he should look, but um, there's a lot of things that we need to work on. But hey, that 64-yard field goal was like crack. I mean that was so cool to see. Um, it is, the Cowboys, they can win, they can lose, but Brendan Aubrey will never change. He is the best kicker in NFL history. I'm confident to say that right now.
Yeah, we've said that for a while now, and we've been called crazy at times. Well, where's Justin Tucker now, I guess you should say. But as for Brandon Aubrey, he's been kicking it for the past few weeks or past few years in his short-lived career. A former MLS kicker, a top pick in the MLS, also an engineer before that. Who would have thought that, his wife looking out for him, saying you should go try out for a kicking job, and encouraging him, led him to be the America's team's kicker, would end up with what we saw yesterday. I mean, or Sunday rather. Just what a start to his career,
Yep.
dynamic, and completely just to put the team on his shoulders. You don't say that for a lot of kickers, like you saw this past Sunday, an historic classic of a game. But yeah, you were talking about this defense, man. 506 total yards given up. 506. Haven't seen the likes of that for a Giants offense against the Cowboys defense since probably the days of Eli Manning. And it's just so wild to watch because you're not used to seeing great receiver play in these matchups for the Giants against the Cowboys. Usually, Michael Parsons has been a big difference maker and just not even getting the ball out for Daniel Jones or for any previous quarterback like Tommy DeVito, also getting it out in these matchups in the past decade. The Cowboys in the Dak era have not lost to the Giants in a Dak start since 2016, and that was the first two losses for Dak Prescott in his career. I mean, what more can you say? That game had me, having three heart attacks. I thought it was over many times, like you were talking about. But I want to ask you next. I mean, are you concerned at all about this defense long term? You kind of mentioned it a little bit, but was it just a one-off thing? Because you saw week one against the Eagles, they looked pretty sound, and people may say the Eagles are not as good as they were last year, but when you look at the secondary, who was missing Deron Bland, by the way, in this game, are you really like worried about them long term?
I just I don't I am worried. I mean, talking about it, out of 8 quarters plus an overtime in this season so far, the Dallas Cowboys defense has played solid defense in 2 of those 8 quarters, and I will say that they played good defense in overtime. Um, it's I mean, the way that they have not been able to, they made Jalen Hurts look a lot better than they should, and they also made, again, Russell Wilson make it look a lot better than they should. I'm really, of course, I think anybody who watched the game could definitely point out that Trayvon Diggs had a terrible game, going up against Malik Neighbors. His help was not better as well. You know, he needed help, obviously. Cornerback's not going to win the matchup against a wide receiver, especially as skilled as Malik Neighbors, as you know, that often, even when you are a skilled cornerback, like I believe Trayvon Diggs is. Um, but also the help. The zones just wasn't working. Russell Wilson was reading it so perfectly. I am a little bit worried, and I think that I'll be a lot more worried if they can't have a at least a solid performance or at least a couple solid strings, maybe a turnover. They need to get a turnover against Chicago. Because right now Chicago's offense, you know, it's just a little lackluster. So, you know, you could definitely take advantage of that. We said that about the Giants though, so you just got to hope that they could pick it up because right now I am a little bit concerned.
I'll add on to that a little bit. I mean, the lack of pass rush also led to a lot of those completions downfield. It felt like at one point every pass that Russell Wilson was heaving downfield was pretty much going to be a completion. You know, either to Neighbors or Wan'Dale Robinson. I thought the last touchdown to Neighbors at the end with about 30 seconds left was the game. And
Hmm.
you're fortunate that the NFL rules have been kind of changed a little bit differently on the kickoff returns where you can have less room to get a big field goal. And that's also where Brendan Aubrey comes clutch because you don't have to get as many yards and less time to get a field goal if you need one. So
Hmm.
Cowboys were fortunate in that regard, but how about this offense really quick as well in this Giants game? I mean, it looked like what we've seen in the past when Dak is healthy, but now that he has two pretty elite receivers in CeeDee Lamb, who's not necessarily having the best start to a season so far, but also George Pickens and this ground game. Who thought Javonte Williams would be as dynamic as he's been so far to start the year? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that offensive performance counter to the defense?
Yeah, shout out Javonte Williams, man. What a great addition through the offseason. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Um, I am insanely proud of the running back game. Or the running back game, the first two games of the season. Javonte Williams having three touchdowns already, almost 100 yards against New York. Now, New York isn't known, of course, for their run defense, but Javonte Williams is also really not known for getting 100 yards in a game as well. And for him to get that close is incredible. And not just that, but we've seen this when he was at Denver for the last few years, is that he's also a good player in the run or in the pass game. He had 6 receptions, 33 yards. Obviously, not a lot of yards per reception, but being able to get those checkdowns and, kind of make yards when there's not really anything open downfield is really important. And I think that he's just been an incredible addition. I do wish that I do wish again that we would be more aggressive with getting better running backs in the offseason. If Javonte Williams is playing this good in our system, think about how good, Derrick Henry would have done in this system or Saquon
Uh,
Barkley, even though I don't think we would have ever gone Saquon in the offseason last year. But I mean, hey, I love the Javonte Williams. The pass game is great too, obviously. Glad that George Pickens had a great game. His touchdown in the fourth quarter to put us ahead um, was a was a good sign. He had a great route on that, and hey, if he can control his emotions, he'll be an amazing wide receiver too. And of course, just another problem in the offseason when we have to re-sign him, but we'll deal with that later down the road. Let's just enjoy him having a good game and hopefully have more good games to come.
I mean, it feels like Javonte Williams has been in the league longer than he really has, but the guy is only 25 years old. He's only 25. And so seeing how he's performed, he's starting to really come into his own. I used to be really hopeful of this guy, young in his Denver career, as a great fantasy option at least, but also just as, as a fan watching the game. I thought he was really impressive back in college, and I thought he could have a really good NFL career. I didn't think it'd be that him being on the Cowboys would happen, to be as dynamic as he would be in the first 2 weeks of the season. 3 touchdowns on the ground so far and almost 100 against the Giants. Again, not the best run D, but for a hallmark of a team like the Cowboys have with a run game, this is a positive sign. If you get the run game going, the sky's the limit for this pass game. So great run, sets up great pass. I also want to talk about Jalen Tolbert really quick. There's about 2 plays at least where they were going to him on third down. And I just was sitting there like, what? it didn't feel like he was scanning the field. Dak Prescott was scanning the field for CD or George Pickens. It felt like it was designed to go
Oh,
to
he was the
Jalen
first
Tolbert
read.
on the field on like some clutch third downs in the fourth. Um, and in overtime, which I didn't think was going to go all the way down to the buzzer either. But when you look at this receiving core like Jalen Tolbert and Cavante Turpin, do you think they need to have like bigger roles compared to CD and George Pickens for this offense to really succeed? Because Cavante Turpin got a really good touchdown also in this game, his first of the season. Do
Yeah.
you think they're good right where they are for this team to be successful offensively, or do they have to make a play here and there?
I think so. I mean, it would be nice if they would make a play here and there, and Turpin definitely did. Tolbert, I think, will make his shining moments. I mean, he's not really Michael Gallup, obviously. Michael Gallup was a lot better, but he Jalen Tolbert has a knack to, maybe catch some, difficult catches. I've seen him do that before, and I think that he's a decent wide receiver. But talking about those third downs, man, it is hilarious that you bring it up because it's true, man. It's something that I started to pick up a lot last year as well. With these third down passes, we would get it to Cavante Turpin, or it would be one of our 500 tight ends that I didn't know that we had. Brian Spanford would get a pass or a target on a third down, and it's like, what are we doing here? But um, I mean, I do hope that Jalen Tolbert can get better. I think that it's not the worst idea to throw them on a third down, but when he's not, when he has two receptions and there's about five other receivers that have more receptions than him at that point, you know, maybe try to look for them first. But you got the win. I think Dak is still looking, Dak's looking really good, and so I'm trying to look at the positives here. But yeah, those third downs.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who have a target on the back for Jalen Tolbert and think that his time is winding up. Some argue that he shouldn't have even made the roster, but I will remember that clutch touchdown against the Steelers last year. I'll always cherish that one, Jalen Tolbert. So you got that. You got a fan for life with me in that. But Turpin, I would love seeing him really increase his role. Being a guy who's in the USFL, being the USFL MVP, to come to this Cowboys roster and not just being a returner, but actually having an increased slot role over the last 2 years has been pretty cool to see. And CeeDee Lamb, look, I know people. Oh, I guess I'm people in this case. I said in the beginning of the question of the segment that he's not having the year that I expected, so I guess I'll count myself in that. But that's just the greatness of CeeDee Lamb that he hasn't had a touchdown yet. And he still put up 9 catches for 112 yards. We know what he did in week one, albeit with, some dropped passes. But the touchdowns will come. It's cool to see George Pickens get involved, especially in the clutch, so you know that Dak can go to him in the fourth quarter in overtime. But I'm very hopeful for this offense. I think Brian Schottenheimer did a fine job with the play calling, and it led to a victory. There's always a question I like to go back to. Would you rather have a very bad defense and a really good offense, or a really bad offense and a really good defense? Typically, I say the latter, but that
Yeah.
was sure fun to watch in that game this past Sunday. Offense
Yeah.
kept us in the game.
I would agree with you. It's definitely a lot more fun with the first part, but the second part is more of a winning formula. So, it's uh this is a game that, you see those, but you see how exciting, you see the potential of the team. But these are games that you're like, all right, later down the season, this looks like we could lose games that we probably shouldn't. This is a team, the Cowboys, I feel like in recent years have always been a team that has beaten the teams that they should have and always lose to the teams that give them a little bit of a challenge. And, we saw that with the Eagles in week one. They gave them a challenge and they couldn't pull through with a win. But, you expect them to go out and play against the Giants at home. We get so accustomed to seeing them just blow out the Giants at home. And I didn't think that they've gotten a lot better from recent years. And so, I mean, kind of hope that it was a better game, but it is a worrisome defense. Sucked to see Cam Scatabo go out there and try to dominate again. He might be a problem for a couple years if we can't get the run defense going because he's one crazy guy. He knows how to pick up yards and kind of
Yeah.
carry a team. So
plays with a lot of heart, and looking ahead to the next matchup when the Cowboys schedule the Chicago Bears really quick. They get to go against Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, new head coach, DeAndre Swift, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, the whole nine. In Soldier Field, going on the road for the second time this year, the Cowboys. And, this team in the Bears is winless. And nobody expected that. Honestly, I did not expect it either to start the year with this new, offensive guru that the Bears have in Ben Johnson, who was with the Detroit Lions, had 15 wins last year, had all the trickery, all the cool plays that people want, a young head coach. What more could you ask for if you're Caleb Williams? And it just hasn't been what people have been hyping them up to be. So I do think that the Cowboys are not going to be prepared in a way somehow for what's coming in week 3. I don't think this is a game that they'll lose. We'll get to that in the very end. But I do think that the Bears offense is going to have, their tails lit on fire because of just what it's been so far in the first 2 weeks of the season. What do you think?
I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a real close game. This is going to be a battle. I mean, you want the defense. I think the game comes down to, again, turnovers. I'll say that with every game with the Cowboys. They got that turnover. They got that turnover against Russell Wilson. It was a dumb throw by Russell Wilson. That was the one time I was like, "Holy shit, Russell." That was not on the menu, man. But
Dono.
Donovan Wilson, man. Um, that's what's gonna have to happen. Get those turnovers. You'll win this game against Chicago. Put some pressure on their offense because obviously their offense is a little not, a little lackluster, like I said earlier in the podcast. So the offense just needs to continue what they're doing. These first two games have been very promising. I think that Javonte Williams, I mean, look, the Lions ran pretty damn good against the Bears um on last week. They were more on the passing side, which is a great sign because Dak Prescott's known for racking up those yards. He's a great guy who can, go out there and throw 50 passes like he did against New York and make some great passes. But the run game looks good. I want Javonte Williams to keep going how he did because you say the Eagles game was, all right, it was just a little coincidence or something. Now you see the Giants game and it's like, all right, Javonte Williams, pretty good running back one right now. Get that good game against Chicago, and now he's looking like a real solid option. And Jerry doesn't look like too much of an idiot for not kind of targeting the running back room in the offseason. So.
Yeah, so in Soldier Field, this game goes. And look, I do think it'll be close as well. I'm not hopeful for this defense to get a lot of turnovers again this game, even though Caleb Williams can throw picks here and there. I feel like that's been the biggest thing since Dan Quinn has become the Washington head coach and him no longer being with the Cowboys. This team used to rack up turnovers. I mean, it was so weird to see growing up as a Cowboys fan because we didn't get to see a lot of turnovers growing up. It felt like it was a party if we got an interception or got a fumble recovery. And then towards the late 2010s and then towards the turn into the 2020s, you started to see way more turnovers with different defensive philosophies and you start to get turnovers in bunches. But since he's left, it's more like what you saw last game, a pick here and there, a pick that shouldn't even been thrown, honestly. But I do think this will be a close game, like you're talking about. But I think this offense will be able to lead the charge again against this Bears defense, who is just not that good to me. Big storyline, Matt Eberflus going back to Chicago, who he was just with for the past few seasons. They thought he could have brought this team back to prominence, but it didn't work out with Caleb Williams. Had that very bad moment in Thanksgiving this past November. Flat out just said I'm not calling these timeouts. I'm gonna let the clock run out against the Lions. But let's go through these props really quick. And let's talk about, say, Javonte Williams really quick, over under. He's averaged medium, in the middle of the 70s in the season on the ground, but his prop is 68.5 posted for rushing yards. What do you have, over under?
I'm gonna go over. I think the Cowboys tried to go with a little bit 1-2 dynamic in the first game with him and Miles Sanders, and it kind of bit them in the back. Um, Miles Sanders' production, not production. He still had a touchdown in week 2, but um, his involvement in the offense kind of went down a little bit in week 2. I think with Javonte Williams having a good game last week, I think that dynamic starts to get a little bit wider. Javonte just takes it over and becomes solely running back one. I think he takes it. He goes over.
I think that's very fair. Um, I'll say over two, but just ever so slightly. Nothing crazy like over, maybe like 70 yards, near his average. So I'll go with that one, but I do think he can have a great game in the pass game as well. How about Dak, who has been very great this year, 267 and a half pass yards. Where do you have?
Over. Over. I mean, hey, Jared Goff, 334 yards against Chicago last week. Dak Prescott also had, I believe, over 300 yards against New York last week as well. Continue picking up the pace. I think that the pass game is going to be a huge part to the success this week. Dak Prescott, I'm going to go over. I think he goes to about 285.
I think that's very fair. He can get a shade under 300 in my book. Very similar idea that we have. I think he'll go over as well. How about CD Lamb? 81 and a half posted for receiving yards.
See, it's like it's taunting. Like, I mean, 81 and a half. I mean, it seems like this is like an guaranteed over from his past performances. Um, you know, CD doesn't have a lot of experience playing the Bears. I think the last time he played him was his rookie year, I believe, right? If not
I
even that.
think 2 years ago,
Yeah,
they came to AT&T. So I guess it was his third year, probably third year.
something like that.
Because two
Yeah.
years ago they came to AT. I remember that.
And
So
so
not a lot
I
of
don't
matchups.
know. Again, they did not have good defense, not good pass defense in these first two games. Let's just go under for this game. That's just me just like I don't know. I just see 81 and a half and it's like what are they building? What are they thinking over there in Vegas? 81 and a half shouldn't it be a little bit higher. Maybe there's something I don't know, so I'm gonna go under.
Yeah, I'm gonna go under too. I don't know why I see that as well. I think the exact same thing, but you know why I think it is? Because of their number one cornerback, Jalen Johnson, very
Mm,
underrated
mm.
corner. Do I think he'll shut down CD? No, but I think it could be like a good solid 70 yards that he holds CD to. Um, and that leads us to George Pickens, 57 and a half receiving yards. What do you say?
We're gonna go over 57 and a half. That one seems a little bit fair. That one's a little bit tougher, but if I'm gonna go over 267 and a half for Dak, I'm gonna go under, and I went under with CeeDee Lamb. I think the only viable option is to go more yards on George Pickens. And I think that also, hey, like that Jake Ferguson, actually had the number one targets last year or last week with 12. I'm glad to see him trying to get back in the mix of the offense because I think he had a little bit of a down year um, last year. And yeah, good to see him back in action and playing well. But George Pickett's over.
Yeah, I'm gonna completely agree with you. I think that's the only way that happens if CD has such low passing yards, receiving yards, excuse me, on this prop. I think could be the game that George Pickens shows out. Maybe gets 90 yards and two touchdowns, possibly has his first 100-yard game as a Cowboy. I think this could be the game possibly for him. So I'm gonna go over in that regard. The Cowboys play the Bears at 325 Central. Should be a fun one for America's Game of the Week. The 1-1 Dallas Cowboys traveling to Soldier Field to play against the winless Chicago Bears. Can't wait to watch this one. Let's go into the Texas Rangers. And man, as we were
Man,
on an unreal high last week, an unreal high, just streak couldn't be stopped. Felt like we were just one of the best teams in the league. It's just been disastrous so far this week for the Texas Rangers. Since that crazy win streak, they have now lost three straight as far as we're recording on a Wednesday afternoon. They lost the last game against the New York Mets, still won the series, but so far have already lost the series against the Houston Astros, the first two games as we recorded this in this last matchup of the Lone Star Series. TJ, is the season over?
yes. I mean, do you think the season's not over? Do you still have hope in this team?
When I look at the records now in the standings, it's not necessarily making me feel good, but who knows?
I mean it's not these fault, it's not this team's fault. It's the team in April. It's the team in April's fault. We should not be in this position. And I think that I'm still extremely frustrated in these last two games because they were so winnable. Um, that second game, you could talk about well, I apologize. I should state that I'm disappointed in Monday and Tuesday's game against Houston. Um, the Tuesday game just felt like, I've seen it everywhere online. It felt like a good analogy or a good, it's what the season has been. A little bit too little, too late. Um, I just when you get the 6-1, 2 outs in the top of the eighth, and you somehow miraculously score 4 runs before getting that last out, and you have two runners in scoring position, and that's when, you lose that spark and you get that third out. That's just so disappointing. It's so heartbreaking. It's just this is what it. I mean, it is a fake DFW comeback. We've seen it way too many times with these teams. Uh, we always mention it in our podcast. It's just sad.
It's the signature. It's the signature of any Dallas Fort Worth team. You're gonna have a few of these every single year. The fake DFW comeback. Game one was very frustrating because you give up a home run to Zach Cole, and I'm like, oh, oops. Jack Leiter, I'm like, come on, man, what are we doing? And then game two is just the same old stuff, like you were talking about, microcosm of the season. When you see something like that, you get down early. Merrill Kelly, I mean, who's been really good the past few games, just did not have it in game two. Jordan Alvarez is hurt in this series, and it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. Houston is still finding a way to get the job done with the pitching staff that we were supposed to have the favor in. We were supposed to be the better of the pitchers right now in this
Yep.
matchup, and you can never tell by now. It's
Mm-mm.
just real disappointing. So, are you more disappointed in the offense right now or the pitching so far in this series or in this losing streak of the past few games?
I It's tough because you have the two sides talking to you about that fake comeback and like, hey, well, at least they never gave up. But that offense in the ninth inning was frustrating, and specifically with Wyatt Langford's watch all three strikes. Um, he just watched that fastball go right over the plate for called strike three, and that kind of ruined the rally in the ninth. We had somebody get on base before that. I also see that, like there's just been too many times where these batters are just not aggressive. They're not aggressive, and I don't know why they continue to do this. I feel like when we get that first pitch and it's right down the middle, it really helps this team out, I don't know why they were deciding to be a little bit too conservative. I think that they were working Brian Abreu and the pitcher beforehand really well. But, I think that once we watched that first strike against Abreu, a lot of those batters just did not make the adjustments to be able to watch a first strike like that because he was giving them some really good first strike pitches, and none of them were swinging the bats. I'm disappointed in that, but the pitching, like you said, Merrill Kelly just laid an egg, and we see this happen a little bit too much. But I don't want to blame the pitching because the pitching is the reason why we are here in the first place. The pitching is the best in the MLB statistically throughout the season. It's the offense that needs to be better, and the fact that they got right there. They were right there and they couldn't seal the deal. They couldn't put the bat off their shoulder. Makes me very disappointed. I gotta go with the offense.
I completely agree with you. You said it pretty much as perfectly. And yeah, you were saying it last week. Don't blame this team if things go haywire.
Yep.
In this following week, you were talking about at the time. But yeah, the offense just disappointing pretty much all season long. The pitching has been spectacular, and I did not think it would hang on like it has all the way into September. But because of this losing streak now, the Cleveland Guardians have completely jumped the Rangers in the wild card race for the third wild card, while the Red Sox have taking a little bit of a tumble. So now the Astros are in the second spot in the wild card, while the Red Sox are third. So not technically over. As we record
Hmm.
this on a Wednesday afternoon, the Rangers are 3.5 games back of the third wild card. If they win
Oh,
today in Houston, they can make progress. Go ahead.
uh, don't doesn't matter. We make the playoffs or don't make the playoffs. We're not winning the World Series, probably. All right. The thing is, at least win the Lone Star boot. All right. We
Yeah,
don't know what happens on Wednesday. All right. So you guys will know. But if this game decides the Lone Star boot or whatever, that's what it's called, right?
yeah, the Lone
The
Star
Lone Star
Series or
boot.
Lone Star.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Lone
it is
Star
the boot
series.
technically. Yeah,
We're tied. We're tied for the season. All right. You got to win this game. All right. Don't let the Astros sweep you to end your season and to also take the Lone Star boot for the ninth consecutive season or 10th consecutive season, I believe.
something like that. Jacob deGrom on the mound against Christian Javier. Come
Please
on.
make
I
it.
mean,
Come on,
come on.
Rangers.
Dude,
Come on,
we only
Rangers.
needed one win. Only needed one win going into the series. Don't do it like this, Rangers. Don't
Come
do
on.
it. Well, that'll do it for episode 85, the Kevin Williams episode. It's been a fun one looking into the Cowboys and the miraculous win with Brandon Aubrey being the superhero and the victory against the Giants, and then also looking ahead to the Chicago Bears and the Texas Rangers, who just cannot figure it out this week. Can they find a way to bounce back as they finish their Lone Star Series, the final edition of the year, to also face the Marlins right after, and then the Twins, and then the Guardians to finish
Got to
the
go 6
season?
and 0 on that homestand if you want any chance. You got to.
Pretty
Can't
much.
let those teams get a win on you.
Yeah, so they have an opportunity, even if they technically get swept in this, which is crazy, but there's no more room for error for this Rangers team, unfortunately. So that'll do it for episode 85. We do remind you to like and subscribe on this video on YouTube on the 214 Sports Show. We post here every Thursday at 11 a.m. Central here and on Spotify also. Again, it's 11 a.m. on Thursdays. And we also post reels and shorts on YouTube as well, but also Instagram reels, TikTok, and Twitter. If you want to, please follow that as well. The 214 Sports Show and TikTok as well. And TJ, would you like to give your socials really quick?
Yeah. I think I will. I'm gonna go with X. You can follow me on X/Twitter at TJ_Krilowicz. And you can also follow me on Instagram at TJ.Krilowicz.
And for me, you can follow me at Joseph_Duffey99 on Instagram and Twitter. And then also you can follow me at JOE_DUFFEY on TikTok if you so choose. Again, this is episode 85. Please like and subscribe. Tell somebody about the podcast, and we'll see you next week.